In the classroom, Lincoln discreetly observed his longtime crush, Jace. Unexpectedly, Jace rose from his seat and approached Lincoln, placing a letter on his desk before leaving. Anxious, Lincoln feared Jace had noticed his gaze, but upon opening the letter at home, he discovered a confession of love. For a moment, Lincoln felt really happy, but soon that happiness went away. Lincoln was someone who cared about what others thought, so he tried to do things that wouldn't make people talk badly about him. Despite having feelings for Jace, he wasn't going to admit that because he didn't want people gossiping about it. The following day, he returned the letter to Jace, coldly rejecting the love confession. He witnessed the person he had admired for years sadly walking away from him. As years passed, Lincoln became a surgeon, while Jace pursued a career as an actor, often appearing on TV. Despite the passage of time, Lincoln found that he still had lingering feelings for Jace. Trying to move on, he asked his colleague and friend to set him up with someone, leading him to meet Felicia. Initially, their relationship was okay, and they eventually got married. However, as time went on, conflicts arose, mainly due to Lincoln's demanding schedule at the hospital. Although genuinely busy at times, he intentionally kept himself occupied to avoid going home. Married to Felicia, Lincoln strived to please others, yet deep down, he wasn't happy. Constantly seeing Jace on TV and online intensified his lingering feelings. Regret crept in for rejecting Jace, and these emotions persisted. A year and a half later, Lincoln and Felicia divorced after he discovered her infidelity. Strangely, he didn't feel much about her cheating, since he had never developed genuine feelings for her, despite his attempts to love her. In his living room, Lincoln took his first drink, watching a Jace interview on TV with regret about his life choices. Overwhelmed, he crawled to the TV, caressing Jace's face, whispering, "I wish I could go back in time and change things." These words lingered as he passed out from excessive drinking. The next morning, Lincoln awoke to the familiar sounds of his parents talking, and found himself in his old room in the house he used to live in with them. Startled, he hurriedly got up and rushed out. His mom, seeing him, asked why he wasn't dressed for school. Lincoln replied, "I've already finished school. Now I'm a surgeon. Why do I need to go to school again?" Perplexed, his mom asked if he hit his head. Glancing at the calendar, Lincoln saw it was the year 2011, not 2024. He asked if they forgot to turn the calendar, and they responded, "Are you okay? What's wrong with you today?" Rushing outside, everything resembled his high school days. Rather than fretting, a smile spread across his face. Determined to embrace the opportunity, he decided to live life on his own terms, pursuing things he enjoyed without concern for others' opinions. Returning to his room, he checked the date and realized it was the day Jace gave him the love letter. Quickly dressing up, he headed to school, determined not to repeat his past mistake. Patiently sitting in class, he awaited Jace's approach, eager for the chance to accept the letter this time. As Jace approached, he walked past Lincoln, placing the letter in a book on the desk behind him. Confused, Lincoln turned around, informing Jace that it was Denzel's desk. Jace, seemingly annoyed, responded, "I know." Lincoln, trying to understand, asked if Denzel was the intended recipient. Irritated, Jace retorted, "Since when did you stop minding your own business? Who I give my letter to is not your concern." Jace returned to his seat, leaving Lincoln bewildered, wondering why he gave the letter to Denzel, and why it seemed like Jace harbored resentment towards him. Unable to say more as the teacher entered, Lincoln kept quiet. Denzel entered the class, discovered the letter, smirked, and stashed it in his bag. After class, before Lincoln could talk to Jace, he had vanished. Baffled and saddened by the unexpected twists, Lincoln decided to take matters into his own hands. He took the initiative and decided to write a love letter himself. If Jace wouldn't do it, then he would. He wasn't going to miss the opportunity that life had granted him. He wrote a heartfelt letter to express his feelings. The following day, he went directly to Jace and handed him the letter. When Jace inquired about the letter, Lincoln openly admitted it was a love confession. Jace, however, responded, I'm sorry, but I like someone else. Unfazed, Lincoln replied, I know. Jace, puzzled, questioned why Lincoln would still give him a love confession letter if he knew. Lincoln, with a mischievous smile, declared, because I like you, and I'm going to make you mine. Leaving a concerned and confused Jace behind, Lincoln returned to his desk. At the day's end, Jace returned the letter to Lincoln, stating, I can't accept this. Lincoln inquired if he had read it, and Jace confirmed, saying, yes, I did. That's why I don't want to give you false hope. I like someone else, and I don't think we can ever be a thing. Undeterred, Lincoln asserted, you don't like me now, but I'll make you fall in love with me. Puzzled, Jace questioned if this was the same Lincoln he knew, as the old Lincoln was only interested in books. Lincoln assured him that things had changed, vowing not to lose Jace again. When asked about the again, Lincoln brushed it off, teasingly stating he would start hitting on Jace, winked, smiled, and left. The next day, Jace arrived at school to find Lincoln sitting in his desk mate's spot, having swapped seats. When he complained to the teacher, the response was that having Lincoln as a desk mate would positively influence his studies and provide the help he needed. Resigned, Jace had to accept the situation. However, Lincoln took it further by following Jace everywhere at school and walking him home every day. One day, Jace confronted Lincoln, asking, why do you keep following me? Lincoln, undeterred, responded, I told you I was going to make you fall for me. Jace, irritated, retorted, is this how you make someone fall for you? You're making me hate you instead. It's seriously annoying. Please stop following me. You're being creepy, then walked away. Realizing his lack of experience in dating and hitting on someone, Lincoln, who had always been serious about life, acknowledged the need for a different approach. Married to Felicia without genuine feelings, Lincoln hadn't invested much effort in the relationship. However, now, determined to win Jace's affection, he sought to discover what actions he could take to make Jace fall for him. He decided to become Jace's tutor, providing an opportunity for them to spend time together without the perceived creepiness. Lincoln approached Jace, offering to help with his studies. Before Jace could respond, Denzel interrupted and requested a private conversation. When Jace returned with a beaming smile, Lincoln inquired about the cause. Jace excitedly revealed, Denzel asked me to be his boyfriend. Lincoln's expression changed, cautioning, Denzel is not someone you'd want to be with. It would be better if you stayed away from him. Jace, irritated by Lincoln's warnings, responded, how do you know he's not someone I would like to be with? And what gives you the right to tell me to stay away from him? Lincoln defended himself, saying, I'm only trying to look out for you. He is a bad influence. Unconvinced, Jace retorted, don't say what you don't know. Lincoln persisted, saying, I know what I'm saying, trust me. Jace challenged, why should I listen and trust you? Lincoln proposed, let's meet tomorrow night. I'll show you something, and maybe you'll change your mind. Jace agreed, saying, I will, because I'm curious to know what it is you have to show me. They met at a nearby club, and when Jace questioned the choice of venue, Lincoln pointed at Denzel, smoking with his arm around a girl's waist. When Jace observed Denzel smoking, he questioned Lincoln, asking, is it because he smokes that you think he's a bad person? Lincoln redirected the attention to Denzel's actions, pointing out, what about him having his hand wrapped around that girl's waist? Jace dismissed it, saying, that's nothing, they might just be friends. As they witnessed Denzel kissing the girl, Lincoln questioned, do friends kiss like they are doing? Angered, Jace snapped, just mind your business and leave me alone, then walked away. Attempting to catch up, Lincoln faced Jace, who expressed his frustration. Jace asserted, I don't know why you are suddenly interested in me and keep prying into my business, but I want that to stop now. Despite Lincoln's attempts to explain, Jace cut him off, saying, I don't want to hear anything, and don't follow me. Leaving Lincoln standing there, feeling sad and confused. Walking home slowly, Lincoln reflected on his actions, contemplating whether he should let go of Jace, since it appeared Jace didn't like him now. However, he couldn't stand the thought of Jace being with Denzel. Especially since he knew Denzel was going to end up in jail soon. That will really hurt Jace if he really likes Denzel. Recognizing a purpose and being given a second chance, Lincoln was determined not to squander it. He decided to start over and approach things with Jace more deliberately, taking the opportunity to build a connection slowly and thoughtfully. At school, Lincoln sincerely apologized to Jace for his previous behavior and asked if they could at least be friends. Jace accepted the apology and the offer of friendship, setting the condition that Lincoln wouldn't pry into his business anymore. In the following days, Jace seemed to warm up to Lincoln. He even allowed Lincoln to tutor him, leading them to spend time together at Jace's house after school, which made them even closer. Despite Jace mentioning his relationship with Denzel, Lincoln rarely saw them together, unlike other school couples. Curious, Lincoln refrained from asking about it, honoring his promise not to pry into Jace's business. During their usual study session at Jace's house, Jace suddenly asked, "Have you ever kissed someone?" Lincoln was surprised by the question. He had never kissed anyone in this timeline, but he had kissed Felicia when they were married. So he calmly replied, "Yes, I have. Why do you ask?" Jace suddenly stood up and asked, "Can you teach me? Denzel invited me on a date, and I think it might end with a kiss. He seems experienced, and I don't want to make things awkward by being a bad kisser." Lincoln also rose and approached Jace, saying, "It's normal to have a not-so-pleasant first kiss." Jace expressed concern about disappointing Denzel. And when Lincoln asked why Denzel would be disappointed, Jace sighed and said, "That doesn't matter. Will you teach me or not?" Lincoln then said, "Okay, fine, I will teach you. But you realize we will have to actually kiss each other if I have to teach you. Are you okay with that?" Jace replied, "Yes, I am." Lincoln slowly moved closer to Jace, taking both of his hands. Softly, he continued, "First, we need to set the mood right. We have to feel each other's connection, just gazing into each other's eyes." Jace followed Lincoln's lead, already captivated by his eyes, eagerly anticipating the kiss, his eyelids growing heavy as he leaned in for the kiss. Lincoln cupped Jace's face with his hand, gently pushing him back with a smile, and said, "It's not time to kiss yet." Jace asked, "Are you teasing me?" Lincoln replied, "No, I'm only showing you how to get a perfect and memorable first kiss." Jace insisted, "No, you are definitely teasing me." Lincoln hushed him, and Jace fell silent. Slowly, Lincoln leaned in and kissed Jace's forehead while still cupping his face. He then slowly moved the tip of his nose to Jace's nose, gently rubbing them together, and said, "Just follow my lead." Lincoln tilted Jace's head backwards slightly, given their height difference, and pressed his lips onto Jace's lips before softly parting them and delicately sucking on his upper lip. As they kissed, Jace wrapped his arm around Lincoln's neck, taking control of the kiss. The intensity grew with each passing second, both of them running out of breath. Jace attempted to move his hand under Lincoln's shirt, but Lincoln stopped him, gently pulling Jace away. Jace awkwardly stared at Lincoln, catching his breath, with his lips red from the intense kissing, and said, "Sorry, I got carried away." Lincoln jokingly remarked, "Are you sure you've never kissed? You seemed more experienced than I am." Nervously rubbing his neck, Jace replied, "I guess it's because you're a great teacher." He quickly diverted the conversation by saying, "I think we should get back to studying. We haven't really studied much." Lincoln replied, "Yeah, sure," with a smirk, and they both sat down to continue the tutoring session. The rest of the session involved Jace stealing glances at Lincoln and clearly not paying much attention to what he was saying. Lincoln noticed, but pretended not to see. Excitedly, Lincoln went home, feeling that he might finally have the chance to be with Jace, sensing that Jace might like him too. On the day of Jace's and Denzel's date, Jace dressed up nicely and headed to the location Denzel had sent him. When he arrived, the only place around seemed to be a private club frequented by affluent individuals. Puzzled, he called Denzel, thinking he might be at the wrong place. Denzel reassured him it was the right spot and mentioned he was on his way to get him. Denzel emerged from the club, took Jace's hand, and attempted to guide him inside. However, Jace stopped him and questioned why they were having their date there. Denzel replied, "The place doesn't matter. What matters is that we'll both have a good time," ushering Jace inside. Denzel sent Jace to a spot where other men, who appeared to be in their 30s, were seated. As they noticed Jace and Denzel approaching, they shifted and created space between them. Denzel asked Jace to sit there, but Jace shook his head, unwilling to take a seat. Denzel then pleaded, "If you really like me, then please sit there." And one of the men chimed in, "Come on, sit. We don't bite." Reluctantly, Jace went to sit there. Denzel also sat down and offered Jace an alcoholic drink, despite Jace expressing that he doesn't drink alcohol. One of the men took the drink and moved closer to Jace, encouraging him to take a sip. Simultaneously, another man placed his hand on Jace's upper thigh, making him feel uncomfortable. Jace abruptly stood up, expressing a desire to go home. However, Denzel took his hand, urging him to return and sit down. Jace, now feeling scared, firmly expressed that he didn't want to sit back down. Denzel attempted to force him, but just then, Lincoln entered and also took Jace's hand, requesting that Denzel let go. Denzel insisted that it was none of Lincoln's business. Reacting instinctively, Lincoln pushed Denzel forcefully, causing him to hit the floor, and then swiftly ran away with Jace. They stopped running and started walking when they had distanced themselves significantly from the unsettling place. Having gotten quite far away from the place, Jace asked, "Did you follow me here?" Lincoln initially replied, "No," but seeing Jace's glare, he admitted, "Yes, I did, but I was only worried about you. I felt uneasy knowing that you were going to be alone with Denzel, because I know what he can do. That's why I quietly followed you. I wasn't going to interfere with your date, I only wanted to make sure you were safe." Lincoln braced himself for a lecture from Jace about prying into his business, but to his surprise, Jace only said, "Thank you. I don't know what would have happened if you didn't come." Lincoln responded, "You don't have to thank me." Jace then continued, "What if Denzel tries to hurt you for interfering in his business and pushing him?" Lincoln assured him, "You don't have to worry about that. He will be arrested soon." Jace questioned, "How do you know that?" And Lincoln replied, "I just guessed." Jace then said, "Oh, really? But seriously, what if he tries to hurt you?" Lincoln replied, smiling, "If you're worried about it, then stick by my side all the time, so that you can protect me when that time comes." Jace retorted, "I'm being serious here," and Lincoln responded, "You really don't have to worry about that. Nothing will happen to me, I promise." Jace said, "I hope so," and they both continued walking in silence. Lincoln then remarked, "Aren't you sad that your boyfriend isn't who you think he is? You don't look sad at all." Jace replied, "I guess I didn't really like him that much. Honestly, I just wanted to experience dating during high school. That's why I asked him out of desperation, because graduation is nearing." Lincoln asked, "Why didn't you ask me then?" Jace said nothing, just looked at Lincoln, rolled his eyes, and started walking faster. Lincoln quickened his pace to catch up, asking if he had ever done anything wrong, but Jace didn't reply and kept walking. Now that Denzel was out of the way, Lincoln could openly express his love for Jace. He flirted with Jace whenever he had the chance, and Jace didn't seem annoyed or show any signs of disliking it. During their last tutoring session, on the eve of their final exams, Lincoln noticed a worried expression on Jace's face. He asked Jace if he was concerned about the upcoming exam, to which Jace replied, "Yes." Lincoln reassured him, saying, "You don't have to worry about it. With the progress you've made, I'm sure you'll pass and get into any acting school of your choice." Jace, looking surprised, asked, "How did you know I wanted to go to an acting school? I don't remember telling you." Lincoln casually responded, "I just guessed," and Jace remarked, "You just guessed? Just like you guessed right about Denzel getting arrested? What? Are you some kind of fortune teller?" Lincoln replied, while smiling, "You can call me that." Jace also smiled, opened his palm, and gave it to Lincoln, saying, "Okay, Mr. Fortune Teller, can you tell me about my future?" Lincoln took Jace's hand, examined his palm, and said, "I can see you are going to have a very great love relationship. With a very handsome young man, whose name starts with an L. Jace, still smiling, said, an L. That must be Lance. Lincoln, looking jealous, asked, who is Lance? Jace grabbed a plush bear from his bed and said, this is Lance. Lincoln looked at it, smiled, and said, oh, I almost got jealous. Jace then said, do you want to know a secret? Lincoln replied, yes, please tell me. Jace began, I actually had a crush on you for a very long time, and did a lot of things to make you notice me, but you never did. All you cared about was reading books. You never glanced at me even once, so I decided to give up. Because it seemed you were never going to notice me, and I was just making a fool of myself. Lincoln exclaimed, surprised, you had a crush on me? Jace then said, see what I'm saying? You never noticed me. Lincoln asked, why didn't you give me a love letter like you did with Denzel? Jace replied, I was going to, but I dreamt that you coldly rejected me. The dream felt so real, my heart hurt. If only the dream made me hurt this much. Wondered how I would feel if you rejected me in real life, so I decided to give up and try to forget about you. Lincoln asked, is that why you hated me? Jace replied, I didn't hate you. It's just that you suddenly changed completely and confessed you liked me out of the blue. I had a hard time believing it. I thought maybe you were bored with your books and wanted some temporary fun. Lincoln then explained, why would you think that? I didn't suddenly like you. I've had feelings for you for a very long time. I just didn't know how to express it, or how to act around you, which made it seem like I was ignoring you. Jace then said, anyway, it doesn't matter now. It's all in the past. Lincoln then asked, in the past? Don't you like me anymore? Jace, trying to dodge the question, got Lincoln up and said, I think it's time for you to go back home now. We need sufficient rest before tomorrow's exam. Saying that, he pushed Lincoln out and shut the door. He jumped onto his bed and screamed into his pillow, while Lincoln remained outside, still processing the abrupt dismissal. The next day, they both arrived at the school gate simultaneously. Lincoln approached Jace, took his hand and said, don't be nervous. Just remember everything I taught you. Jace replied, that is not making my nervousness go away. Lincoln then asked, what can I do to make your nervousness go away? Jace stood on his toes, kissed Lincoln's lips without caring about the people around, and said, I feel better now, good luck, then ran off. Lincoln smiled in admiration, watching Jace's back. After the exam was over, Lincoln waited for Jace at the gate. Just as he was waiting, Jace hugged him from the back excitedly, and shared that everything Lincoln had taught him appeared in the exam, and he was confident he would pass. Since Lincoln had already taken the exam before, he remembered the questions due to his good memory. While this could be considered cheating, Lincoln hadn't provided Jace with the actual questions, but one similar to them. Lincoln turned and hugged Jace properly, saying, I knew you could do it. He then walked Jace home, both holding hands. Since they were done with their exams, Lincoln didn't have any other reason to spend time at Jace's house. They both said their goodbyes, and as Lincoln turned to leave, Jace said, are you really leaving? Just then, Lincoln turned and kissed Jace on the lips and said, I wanted to do this since morning. Jace covered his mouth and teasingly said, did you just take advantage of me? Lincoln replied, you took advantage of me first, so we are even. Jace then said, I don't remember doing such a thing. Lincoln said, I'll make you remember then. He kissed Jace's lips multiple times, before Jace covered his mouth and said, I remember now. Lincoln then turned serious and said, this is the happiest I've ever been in my entire life, and I don't want this happiness to slip away. I want to be selfish and keep it all to myself. Will you please be my boyfriend? Jace, trying to hide his smile, replied, I'll think about it. Lincoln asked, how long do you need? Jace then said, I'm done thinking about it, yes. Lincoln warmly embraced Jace and thanked him. They both secured spots at their desired universities. And Lincoln, anticipating Jace's acceptance, applied to a university near Jace's choice. Both accepted in the same city, they opted to share an apartment. Lincoln grasped the reality that people were engrossed in their own lives, and generally, they were not concerned about other people's life choices. Every night, as they slept, Lincoln would hold Jace close, afraid that he might wake up one day and find himself back in his previous life. Over time, he learned to live in the present, cherishing each moment.